Welcome to episode 56 of Military Veterans Podcast, where we talk to veterans to learn about their stories and experiences. And today we're joined by Gerry Dolan. Hey, Gerry.
Hey, nice to meet everyone listening.
Did it cut out then or something?
Yeah, the delay just doubled since we've started.
Oh, geez. I was saying to Gerry before we started recording that this is really bad, lag. And I normally record with American people over in the States, and it's not so bad. But Gerry, we are doing a remote recording, and could you let everybody know where you are in the world?
Well, I might explain the lag a little bit. I'm on the west coast of Ireland, so right off the Atlantic.
See, that might be it. That might be it. So fairly close to mainland England. But yeah, still too far away. Maybe the cables are not working so well for us to have this massive lag. But we will do our best to get through it. Now, Gerry, at the beginning of every episode, we do have the 4 questions as a summary of what we're going to go into for your episode. So I will give you them one at a time. No, let's do all 4 at a time because of the lag. And hopefully you can just bullet point answer and we'll get into your episode. How does that sound?
Sounds perfect.
This is mental, this lag. All right, let's go for it. So the 4 questions are: when did you join? What service and branch did you join? How long did you serve for? And what rank did you get to?
So I joined in January 2008. Joined the Royal Air Force as an Aerospace Systems Operator. So basically a scopy. I left in January 2017, and the rank I achieved was Corporal.
Cool. And then just to clarify the time, that was 9 years. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Fantastic. And again, I said this to you before we went live with the recording. That sounds like a really fancy trade inside the Royal Air Force, but you told me it's not so fancy.
Yeah, I think that's how the AFCOs for the RAF sell it. They make it sound incredibly fancy. You think you're some sort of James Bond guy, and really you're just sat at a computer.
Amazing. Well, let's rewind the clock, Gerry, and let's go back to the beginning. Where were you born, and where did you grow up?
So I was born in Luton, Bedfordshire, so a really stinking little place outside of London. I was born in 1989. Family are Scottish and Irish. So from the age of 7, I moved back to Ireland, where all my kind of main family are. So pretty much in the west of Ireland up until I joined the RAF, and then in the UK pretty much after that.
Fair enough. Now, when you were a little kid, can you remember when you were over in the west part of Ireland? Has it always had shocking internet, or is it?
Hey, don't be blaming. I'm blaming this on your internet. I'm getting 100 megabytes a second here download. So I'm deflecting Soapy shoulders here.
Fair enough. I'll take the blame. I'll take the rap. So with your childhood, it sounds like you did quite a bit of moving around. So was there any standout moments from that childhood?
Yeah, I did move around a lot, probably around 4 or 5 different schools over my time. So it was always used to being a kind of new kid. And I think those do stand in my mind, and that's something I think that helped with the military a little bit, just kind of living with your bag packed nearly and ready to go. So, it was something that stands in my mind that I enjoyed. But yeah, a lot of moves.
Fair. I'm also just gonna say about lag again because you stopped talking, but I can still hear you. So I have no idea what it's going to be like when I get back to the editing part. But exciting times. Now, was you really good at anything in particular? So particular academic aspect or sports or anything like that as a kid?
So I was pretty much called the gazelle when I was a kid. So I was always running, and I was always very good at running, like cycling. And in Ireland, we like soccer, they would call it over here, so football. But I also did Gaelic football over here, which I was fairly decent at. So it's basically, for people who don't know, you just handball all the time.
Really? Okay. Okay. I might have to look into that. Now, you mentioned about the packing up, the moving around and stuff kind of like set you up for a little bit of success in the military. But was there anything else that enticed you to join? Not just the moving around at home, but was there like family members maybe that were in the military?
Yeah, so I had an uncle who was Grenadier Guards. So originally I was thinking about the army. That's what I was kind of thinking on. But I was always quite good at school, even if I didn't achieve a lot. So he was like, "Don't waste your time in the army. They're all a bunch of idiots, basically. Join the RAF." So yeah, he had quite big, sweeping statements there.
That's fair. I mean, the RAF do like hotels, right?
We do like our velvet robes and our pipes, definitely.
Amazing. So, at what point did you think this is definitely what I'm going to go for? And with that maybe insight from the uncle making that decision to go with RAF.
Yeah, well, for me, I think because my dad died when I was around 12 years old. And I think after that point, so I was around the age of 13, I was thinking, I want to do something. I want to see more of the world. I kind of grew up quite quickly at that point when my dad died. So I think that led into me kind of thinking, I feel like a man already, and I want to do something that can kind of prove it. So yeah, it was probably around that period of 13. I was like, I'm joining the military by hook, by crook.
Okay, okay. And what? Just remind us. Was you seven? Did you say you're 17 when you joined?
Well, I was 18, so I'd been accepted when I was 17, and I joined 2 months after my 18th.
Okay. And so, what was that like for you? Heading off to, I think it's called. Is it called basic training as well for the RAF?
Yeah, yeah, basic training, yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, what was that like for you? And obviously, like another move, yeah.
Yeah, it was exciting because I where I live in the west of Ireland, it's a small town. It's like, well, I say town, village. It's like one shop, one pub, so everyone knows everyone. So the thrill of going back over to the UK as like a young man, and I'm living by my own wits. I couldn't wait, and I could the biggest thing I was looking forward to was the fitness because I loved running. I loved stupid fitness, so I couldn't wait really to do that side of things.
Nice. And with your training, the basic aspect, any standout moments or anything that you're really good at? Because if you were the gazelle at school, was you pretty good for the runs and stuff?
Yeah, it was. It was. I found it quite easy. The fitness side. It was at Halton. I did it. So there was lots of running, lots of cross country, lots of kind of fitness in the halls about, and it was all. It was something I really excelled at. But what I would say is that I probably struggled with the kind of maybe basic kind of rifle drills and things. I'm still, even when I was in the military, I was a terrible shot. Like, Jesus, don't put me anywhere near the target. I'd be hitting the barn door maybe.
That is fair. Well, we've got the army, so we'll help you out. Is there also like the RAF regiment? Is that
Oh,
is that,
yeah.
that's the pretend army of the RAF? Is that right? Something like
Yeah, well, they're basically the barrier up, barrier down guys.
that? Fair. Well, at least you see them in the right light as well. Anyway, I do just want to rewind the clock ever so slightly because you mentioned your trade in the RAF when you joined. Did you actually want to do that, or was it a kind of like list of jobs that they had on offer before you actually went to basic?
Yeah, so that's a good story in itself, really. Like originally, what I wanted to be, like most idiots, is that if you join the RAF, you're going to be a pilot. So that's what I wanted to do. But what they said at the time when I went to join up said it's 18 months, 2 years before the next recruitment part. And as I was around sort of 16 and a half at that point. So I was like, I'm not waiting until I'm 19, 20. Even that's just a possibility. And the other thing, the thing I settled on then was basically weapon system operator. So they were the guys that kind of hang out the back of Chinooks, getting troops on and off. And they're also kind of on fixed wings. So they kind of work alongside they're basically like a loadmaster kind of style. So that's what I wanted to join. So I did all the kind of initial interviews for that. And at that point, he offered me like to go to university to get a university degree paid for, and then I'd join afterwards. But I'll be honest, I was a bit of an idiot. I was like, I want to join now, and if the thought of going to uni, I just wasn't very academically minded at that point. So I just wanted to be in. And they sold me an absolute lie when I went to the Africa. They said, weapon system operator, we've got aerospace systems operator. It's pretty much the same job, but on the ground. And I believed that. I thought, geez, that makes sense to me. It's only when I was joined and I was actually in that they're two completely different trades. There's pretty much no overlap between them. So, but once you're in, you're in.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you complete training, basic training, I'm hoping it's like the army life where you do basic and then you head off and you do your trade school or your trade training. Is that true? And if so, where do you go and how long is that for?
Yeah, so after the basic training, we did a trade training up at RAF Boulmer. So it's just up past Newcastle. It's near the Scottish borders. It's a beautiful place, and we did that for around 4 months. Was the sort of initial trade training, and then you do on the job training. You're always training basically for the next sort of 18 months, 2 years. So yeah, so it's that. It's two parts really.
Okay. And so what does that role, what does that trade entail? Because if someone is listening to this and maybe thinking of joining the RAF, they might want to know what actually does that job do.
Yeah, so it's really, really varied because it's within each. So you can have two people who do exactly the same trade, and within the role they do completely different things. But it's a mixture. So we basically our role is a little bit like air traffic control, but we work nationally. So what we do is we look at civilian air traffic all across the UK and abroad, and what we do is we link in the military side of things. So the RAF, so typhoons, tankers down at Brize, and if there's any threat to any civilian airliner, we would be scrambling fighter jets up, and we'd be the guys guiding them in, doing sort of initial profiles to go through, because it's obviously very kind of litigious in what you have to do. And the other side of the role that we do is we work with things like the E3, so the AWACS, so doing kind of airborne warning and control systems. And we would do sort of combat maneuvers, bombing sort of runs, and also kind of jamming profiles. So it's really varied within the role, actually.
That does sound pretty cool, though. To be fair, like really important
The,
role, but
the
also really cool.
Yeah, this is it. Now I've sold it like they sold me at the AFCO. When there was work happening, it was absolutely great crack. But there'd be so much. How often is there a hostage situation? Thankfully, not very often. So it meant there was you were on standby a lot basically. But it was very very good when it happened.
Yeah. Okay. Well done for selling it. You might have someone out there that wants to join up. So
Commission.
yeah. Make sure you write in. Let him know. So after you do your trade training, do you then get to kind of pick like a top 3 or 4 places you want to go, or do you just get told, right, you're needed there because of your trade?
Yeah, so it's a big enough trade within the RAF, but it's very localized. Because basically there's only two major hubs for basically aerospace systems operator. Because we have to be in nuclear bunkers, generally speaking, or bunkers, because we're the first people that get taken out in a war. Because you get rid of us, then coordination's affected. So there's only two places: there's RAF Boulmer, RAF Scampton in Lincolnshire. Then the
Right.
main two hubs for our trade, where they take 78% of us.
Okay. And so which one did you go to?
So I stayed in Bulmer for the first couple of years, yeah. So that's the main hub.
The main hub. And then what did you find, I guess maybe as a standout moment from initially getting there? Because now you're fully in the RAF, you've now done your training as such, and you're now heading off to your first unit, as we would call it. So yeah, any kind of like memories there of when you first joined that area?
Yeah, it was. I have to say, I found it quite cool at first because you're in a nuclear bunker, so you've got this little cottage on the side of the hill, and then you just go down. You go through all these sort of security bits, and you just go down flight stairs, and then you're just completely underground. And the kid in me was really excited by that because it's like, wow, we're in a nuclear bunker with all the big blast doors. I was kind of thinking of NORAD in America on a much smaller scale. So I kind of loved it at first. It was a really exciting, kind of cool thing to do.
Yeah, it does sound it. I'm guessing not everybody can go and visit there, so therefore that's something that not many people get the experience of. So are you stationed there for the like whole 2 years, or do you actually get to go off and go to different locations?
Yes, no, it's kind of like you were there for 3 years, really, for me. And yeah, like I said, it's a when I joined the military, it was like travel, see the world. That's what most people's ideas are. And I had the same thing. I was like, I'm in the west of Ireland. I want to see the world. And I joined a trade that was pretty much in two locations in the UK. So yeah, I was there for 3 years, and there was not much else happening.
Okay. I kind of want to ask the questions of what did you do for 3 years? Like, did you go on courses? Did you, I don't know, do any sports? Like, what was that? What was that? I guess in between instances, if you can call it that.
Yeah, so well, I was always mad into my running and my cycling before I joined up. So I just started doing stupid events like that. So we did some sort of non-stop 24-hour cycles for charity. So like cycling from Bulmer up to Lucas, which is up past Edinburgh. So like 200 odd milers and stuff like that. And then did like week-long cycles down the UK, for D-Day. So there was lots of like time for kind of fun things. I did skiing as well for a couple of weeks. And if you look back at it, you think, geez, I got 2 weeks of skiing out in Austria for around £100. And even at that stage, there was very few people actually going for it. They were like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to do it. It was incredible, really, some of the opportunities you had.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think I did skiing once with the army, and that was because I was based out in Germany, and they just did like a weekend away. Wasn't very good at it. I don't know if you were very good.
I could get down to the bars. I was very good at getting to the bars.
Was that at the bottom of the ramp?
Well, it's literally literally at the bottom, halfway down the slope, going into the pubs.
Oh, the bar, that kind of bar, right? Sorry, I was thinking of like a metal bar that stopped you from going too far.
No, nothing more technical than a few drinks.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So, anything else you wanted to mention from your 3 years in that you can? Because I'm hazarding a guess here that there's a little bit of secrecy there with what's beneath the surface, because obviously we don't want everybody to know the secrets.
Yeah, so there's a lot of it that's classed as secret, secret and top secret for most of the role. So yeah, I can't go into anything, but people can look it up. We had Sky News down there a couple of times. You can get it on YouTube as well to have a little check of it out. So yeah, it was really like when things happen, it was just a live wire activity, and that excitement is kind of why I joined the military. Like everything kind of in a sense going wrong, and everyone pulling together, and you'd have a team of maybe 30 to 40 people all doing different roles, but in the moment it was just so streamlined. It was just an amazing thing to really do. When it kicked off, you were just nearly on autopilot in a way. It was just so built into you what you had to do.
Don't need names, don't need dates really, but is there anything you can share, like as a story from when it did all kind of like kick off as such?
Yeah, I'd say definitely the Russians were always quite fun because the Russians are the same as us. Well, we know exactly what's happening to a degree with their military, and same with us. So, particularly around the kind of Christmas periods, they'd always send down a kind of Russian bear. So these are like the Cold War era kind of bombers. They're decrepit. They must be the most horrible thing to be in. They go on flights for 18 or 19 hours. They would fly down the coast, and then they would jam you. They would jam your frequencies, so your radio frequencies. And I remember like one Christmas, sort of Christmas day, so maybe around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and they were just jamming Russian music down into our kind of basically frequency. So we just turned all the speakers on loudspeaker, and we were just sat around. It was kind of like Russian music. Do you know what they're kind of doing the dancing? Do you know what they're like down on the kind of hips, and they're doing that kind of? It was fucking great. And the Russians had a good sense of humour, so it was nice. You kind of felt like, well, we're working Christmas, and so are they.
Yeah, that is a good share, because we hear about aircrafts coming in, typically Russian, and we hear about your team perhaps that scrambles the jets, our jets, but we don't hear much else. Do you know what I mean? So the fact that they like to play pranks on you in some way with the scrambling of the network to give you some different type of music, that's actually quite interesting. So I'm not sure if this was lag or you just didn't want to say anything. So I'm going to move that on to, where did you go afterwards? Where did you go after the 3 years in that nuclear bunker? Because, yeah, we all have to move on, don't we? We have to move on to our next location.
Yeah, so I kind of had to fight a little bit to move on, and the reason is because there's like I said, there's two major hubs for we would call ourselves scopies. That's the kind of name because it's just a radar scope. We don't look at those sort of things, but that's what our nicknames are. So it's a scopy. Yeah, you kind of have Boulmer as Gambler, but I really pushed because I was kind of getting bored at Boulmer because after a couple of years you're fully qualified, you kind of want to move on. I managed to get basically a trade swap with Trade Group 9. So they're the air traffic side of things. So I managed to get swapped down to Brize Norton, which was great. Like it was an absolute like Gucci post to get. So I went down there just before the Olympics. So the end of 2011, I went down there.
Oh, nice. Okay. So what's that role you changed to? You said a trade swap. What's that actual name of that trade that you swapped into?
So it was flight ops assistance or flight ops. That's it. Flight ops.
Okay, and is that kind of what it sounds like, where you are looking after the military aircraft coming into Brize? Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, solved. That's exactly it. So you do a couple of different things. You do kind of pilots doing kind of normal, like around the UK, doing military kind of bombing runs, but you do a lot of stuff for going out overseas. That's kind of a major part of the role. So getting troops, getting your kind of explosives out there, things like that.
Okay. Well, is that for exercise? Sorry, it kind of broke up there. Is that for exercise or is that for ops?
For ops, yeah. So we used to do ops. So we did two side for ops. So getting people out to kind of Afghanistan, Iraq. But then we'd also do the other side of things, which was your kind of spec aeromed. So getting troops had been obviously really badly hurt out in theatre. And we'd work around the clock to get civilian flights, helicopters, anything we could to get guys back and hopefully save their life. Or the other side of things, which was people whose partner had given birth like unexpectedly and trying to get them back for their wife giving birth. So little things like that, which they were the best parts of the role, really.
Interesting. Do you do this role within a particular building at Brize, or are you kind of on the ground as well? Like, what does it look like?
Yes, it's mainly in a building, so it's just above the terminal at Brize. We used to be in a kind of, it's a small office. It's like a team of like 6 of us, not very big, but we used to do all the air tasking, going out to theatre. Yeah.
Oh, cool, cool. And so, what was your time frame there? Was that a couple of years?
Yes, I was there from sort of end of 2011 till I got promoted. I was supposed to be there for 3 years, and then he wanted to extend me, but I got promoted while I was down there, so I had to leave.
Righto. So when you got there, what rank were you?
So I was, and these are the stupid RAF ranks, as we were talking about earlier. Corporal sounds pretty normal, but before you get that, you have basically 3 different ranks. So when you join up, you have aircraftsman, or aircraft person probably these days, and then you have leading aircraftsman, and then you have senior aircraftsman. They're all just on time served, so you naturally should get to SAC, senior aircraftsman. So I was senior craftsman when I went down to Brize.
Okay. And if I'm right, is that like a lance corporal equivalent? Is that right?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty close to being that. Yeah,
Yeah. And then the promotion to corporal, and then that is in line, isn't it? That corporal is a corporal, so that kind of makes sense.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Where did you go off to then when you got this promotion?
So back to Bulmer.
Oh, really? Okay, I thought it was somewhere exciting, like somewhere
It's
new.
like yeah, it's like the Monopoly board. You're just getting up to Mayfair and you're getting excited, and then you hit one of these kind of community chests, and it says you go back to the start again. That's pretty much what our trade's like.
So when you get there as a corporal, have you got? Are you still taking that trade from Brize Norton back with you, or are you reverting back to the original trade?
Yeah, it's well, like when I got promoted, I got told when I was down at Brize, they wanted to keep me and see if I could get a corporal role within them, but my trade wouldn't allow it. So I went back to Bulmer, and it was doing a completely different role than I was doing down at Brize. I was back to what I was doing previously, but slightly different.
Right, right. Before we talk about that, is there anything from your time at Brize that stands out, like a standout moment, that something that you were in charge of or that you got underway that really sticks in your mind from being there?
Yeah, I'd say just one. Like my favorite times, weirdly enough, like I said, was working on a kind of spec aeromed when guys had been, or guys or girls had been, blown up out in Afghanistan in particular, and getting them back, and if they survived, like that felt really meaningful. But I'd say one of the standout ones was a guy who was out in Afghanistan, and his wife had gone into premature labour, and we managed to. It was impossible. The military jet wouldn't get out there. It was still kind of tri-stars and the kind of DC-10s at that point, and we couldn't get him back via the conventional route. And we ended up getting a civilian airliner full of passengers diverted to pick up this guy. So we got him a little bit further out into the Middle East. Then got the civilian airliner, just I don't know, British Airways or something. Got it diverted to pick up this one guy, and then instead of flying into somewhere like Glasgow, which was the origin point or where it's supposed to go destination, we got diverted into a military end. We got into Prestwick. So it was like really messed up all these civilians. But we got this guy there. He got out and he saw his wife before she gave birth. So, and that is just, for me, they're the moments that are really meaningful rather than all the other stuff that kind of runs on rails.
Yeah. And did you find those 2 years to go pretty quick because you had those kind of type of jobs on that maybe you were concentrating on it for a period of time?
Yeah, it was. I loved the roll down about. It was super fast paced because you would have multiple. Obviously, there's always jets going out. The RAF is tiny, really, compared to like the Yanks and stuff like that. But there was always something happening, so it's so fast paced, and you were given a lot of responsibility because I was the most junior rank by a mile. Everyone else was things like squadron leaders, sergeants, flight sergeants. So you were really like a junior, but you were some respect you were treated like an equal. So it was a really nice really nice place to be.
That's cool. It sounds like a really proud moment of your first few years in the military. So I'm going to put you on the spot again and just see if there's another nugget there that you wanted to share that really sticks out again, because it sounds like that is a very memorable part of your career, doing a role that you weren't actually ever going to do, but seemed to spend a couple of years doing. So yeah, anything else you want to share?
Yeah, so I like the Brize was fantastic. There was some amazing. I would say another example that I did like. We had the red arrows into Brize before, and basically the way it works with jets and pilots, they have their own hours, so they have very strict hours, and it's put down by like civilian aviation. So if there's a delay with a military jet of a couple of hours, sometimes you have to delay it a whole 24 hours because that pilot's hours are out. He can't have the delay and still make the whole flight. And we had this flight going out to Afghanistan with troops, desperate obviously to get out there so they could take off the other guys out there and come home. And it was delayed by around 2 hours. And we had the basically the red arrows come in. And he was like, oh, well, we need to do our flying this afternoon. And went, you can't go because if you take the next slot, then we have to delay 24 hours for the Afghanistan jet. And can you guess what happened? Can you guess what actually happened?
Did the red arrows actually take precedence?
He pulled rank. He said, we're red arrows, we're taking the slot. So they took the next slot, even though they could have delayed 15 minutes. And what happened was that whole flight with the guys going out to Afghanistan was delayed a whole 24 hours because Red One pulled rank. So stuff like that where you just like
Wow.
you just can't believe that people make those decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, that is crazy. And Brize is fairly busy, right? It has a lot of flights going in and out in the sense of military troops and stuff. But yeah, I suppose when you get a special crew like that, that doesn't happen too often. Because then, or are they based out of Brize? This is me sounding silly now.
No. They were mainly based out of Scampton in Lincolnshire. They would do a lot of the
Ah,
flying out there. So they were never based at Brize. They were doing, I think it might have been doing like basically training for maybe an air show or something like that. And they thought they were the bee's knees, but no one
mm.
in the RAF cared about them because they're just a rank. But they maybe get above the station a little bit. Some of them anyway. I'm sure not all of them, but some of them maybe thought that they were walking gods, but not to the rest of us.